In the rudimentary way in which we talk on higher density living, people who are more evolved than us have other ways of communicating.
So, this is what we do. This is how we do it.
I
was
was
like something like that.
I've been listening to Creep by Radiohead.
Oh, yeah.
Great song.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad he killed himself.
I know, isn't that? How many musicians kill themselves? It's crazy.
Especially the ones that, remember the 27 Club?
Yeah.
You know, what was it? So you got Kurt Cobain.
Yeah,
You got
Soundgarden guy.
Bob. No, what's his name?
Chris Cornell.
Yeah, the hell's that guy's name?
I don't think anybody in Pearl Jam's killed themselves, had they?
No, good for them.
The Slipknot guy killed himself.
Yeah.
One of them. There's like, that's one of my favorite bands.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. He didn't kill himself.
What?
Did he kill himself?
I don't know, dude.
We can look up artists that committed suicide.
No, Bob Dylan.
We can talk about
He didn't kill himself. Who am I thinking of?
Look this up. This up. A reporter that I don't want to use the word busted. Reporter that brought information out Hillary Clinton. He came out with some new information just the other day, and then the next night he committed suicide. Huh. How many suicides did she have around her?
Yeah, so the reporter who broke the story in the 2016 Clinton Lynch tarmac meeting, dead at 45 of alleged suicide.
How many suicides did they have around them?
Everybody, there's so many people who've said something about the Clinton Foundation and it says suicide, but they're found with 2 bullets in their head.
We should look at that.
How do you get the second one in?
How many suicides are attached to the Clintons? That would be interesting. I wonder if they would even say. There's got to be at least 20.
I don't like that I went on Breitbart, but how
that
many?
tells me they have like the old guy in the jacket that's a professional.
Yeah.
And he goes in there and he's like, we're going to commit suicide right now.
How many suicides associated with Clintons? Complete list of Clinton associates. Who there's a list. The complete list of Clinton associates who allegedly died mysteriously or committed suicide before testimony, including Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so where's the fucking list here?
Oh, these guys.
That isn't that.
We're not slamming the Republican or Democratic Party. We're just doing a little bit of conspiracy work.
I love the conspiracy work.
We
okay, dude. James McDougal, Clinton's convicted Whitewater partner, died of an apparent heart attack while in solitary confinement. He was the key witness in the Ken Starr investigation.
Yeah, he gone.
Mary Mahoney, former White House intern, murdered on July 1997 at a Starbucks coffee shop in Georgetown. Happened just after she was to go public with her story of sexual harassment in the White House. Vince Foster, these are great, former White House counselor and colleague of Hillary Clinton at Little Rocks Rose law firm, died of a gunshot wound to the head, ruled a suicide. Ron Brown, Secretary of Commerce and former DNC chairman, reported to have died by impact in a plane crash. A pathologist close to the investigation reported that there was a hole in the top of Brown's skull resembling a gunshot wound. At the time of his death, Brown was being investigated and spoke publicly of his willingness to cut a deal with prosecutors. The rest of the people on the plane died. A few days later, air traffic controller committed suicide.
That was a cleanup job, wasn't it? Because they had to kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, ATC
how many people were
and
in the plane?
That's a big cleanup job.
Yeah, it's funny how these guys.
All these individuals, dude. This list has 27 people on it.
You would think, like, wouldn't the Department of Justice or somebody be like, "There's too many suicides attached to you guys"?
Yeah. Keith McMaskey. Had information on the Ives Henry case related with the Clintons, was stabbed 113 times.
Somebody was angry.
This guy died on a motorcycle because he slammed into the back of a truck. This guy died from a gunshot wound. Do you know how many gunshot wound people there are?
Yeah, somebody was driving that truck and then just hit their brakes really hard. Where there was no cameras.
The following Clinton bodyguards are also dead. Major William S. Barkley Jr., Captain Scott J. Reynolds, Sergeant Brian Hanley, Sergeant Tim Sable, Major General William Robertson, Colonel William Densberger, Colonel Robert Kelly, Specialist Gary Rhodes, Steve Willis, Robert Williams, Conway LeBleur, and Todd McKeon.
How many bodyguards have died?
That's how many bodyguards have died for the Clintons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Did they all
6,
commit
7,
suicide?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No. Those are ones that...
See, this shows you how corrupt the government is, because somebody would investigate this. You've had 12 bodyguards, Mr.
Yeah.
Clinton.
And all
that
12...
have all passed away.
What's going on here?
What?
You're not even the president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because there's nefarious shit going down.
That's really interesting.
Well, I mean, they do these. It's real interesting. These speeches where they pay him $250,000 to go somewhere and speech.
I've seen him at one.
They do that, and then they cut deals behind the scenes.
That's
So they get there. You pay him $250,000, so that all looks legit. But behind the scenes, there's a sheik or somebody like that in the audience, or that is a part of this, and then they will give money to the foundation, make huge donations or whatever. There's all kinds of... Bill Gates was involved in that too. Also, let's look this up since we're on the conspiracy thing. This would be really good.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, aluminum in the air. He wants to pump aluminum in the air, and everybody's agreeing with him.
Why are we putting aluminum?
He says it'll
Bill
help
Gates'
climate.
venture aims to spray aluminum dust, into the atmosphere to block the sun. Why?
How does a billionaire become top scientist and then just allowed to do whatever he wants?
Yeah. It's called sun dimming technology, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they are backing a startup called Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, ScopeX. Nothing about that sounds good. And it's completely launched by a Harvard University scientist. By spraying non-toxic calcium carbonate dust into the atmosphere.
We need to get a hold of these guys.
A sun-reflecting aerosol. Yeah, we can get them.
I want to hear about this technology. Can we have them on the air?
I don't see any reason why we can't.
I want to know about this harmless calcium.
Yeah, I don't. Why do we?
It could be. I don't know. It just sounds weird to put aluminum in the sky, but maybe it is a good thing.
Calcium carbonate?
I don't want to be too fucking conspiracy.
Yeah, it's called solar geoengineering is what they want.
I heard a good one the other day.
Please, yeah.
Is
there any
that
positive conspiracies?
No, this is a positive one, depending on how you view. It could be positive or negative. But they're saying that after the vaccines,
Yeah.
Sperm counts went super low
Okay.
on males, and females have been having some issues having pregnancy.
Interesting.
So these global elites, this may have been a great way to limit the population.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
As long as they don't harm you physically, that's still fucked up. You're going to get somebody's free will and the right for them to procreate. So that's super fucked up.
it's very interesting.
But
thought.
it wouldn't surprise me if that was done.
Do they have any data supporting that?
It's just people coming together. But people die from vaccines all the time. There's a small percentage of people. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, if you get the vaccine,
it's odds.
the
The odds of it.
CDC requires that if somebody dies after having the vaccine, even though it could be for completely separate reasons, it has to be reported that they had the vaccine. But what do you think people naturally do? Oh, the vaccine's killing people. No, it's not. They're giving it to older people, and older people are just dying. But it has to be listed there because it has to be back tested. It's a requirement through the FDA and the CDC.
Yeah, if you got the vaccine and then you have a heart attack 2 days later,
It's not the
it's not the vaccine, it's the
but
French
people,
fries.
Everybody wants to associate it with
Yeah,
that.
it's those delicious French fries. Here recently, this is really crazy.
What?
I've wanted beer, which is bad. And
Yeah.
I had some the other day. I've been craving beer here lately, but I've had a disgusting feeling towards fast food.
Wow.
Really, I don't want it at all. I feel like I would throw up. I've had that before. I went a year and a half eating no fast food.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember what the reason was. I think I was buying something on Craigslist, and I met the guy wanted to meet in a KFC, and I hadn't had any fast food or anything. And I walked into a KFC and smelled. Dude, I was wanting to throw up so bad.
Ew.
It stunk so bad.
When I go by a Popeyes, I want to literally vom.
Yeah.
I can't stand the smell in the car.
Oh, that Popeyes chicken sandwich, though. I've had Chick-fil-A here recently, but that's
Yeah.
not as bad. I mean,
Yeah, I
but
mean-
but as like wanting, I usually crave McDonald's every once in a while, and I'll get it every once in a while just
Yeah.
because it's like, and
Who was the guy who was on Lex Friedman, the longevity expert?
oh yeah, what's his name?
Sinclair.
Yeah, David Sinclair.
So he's like, I actually can't have the food because my gut biome will reject it. It's been so long of like not having like meat or anything like that. That's why it would make me so sick.
Oh yeah, you would have that way.
Oh,
too.
I'd feel horrific.
Yeah, you couldn't have any of that. I mean,
I wouldn't even be
you're
able to
straight
digest it. It'd be
you're
a brick.
straight up hardcore vegan. I
Ugh.
mean, you're pretty hardcore.
Yeah, you know me. I'm all about the grass.
So I mean, if you had any type of heaviness like that, like a that,
If you gave
greasy-
me a fucking
burger?
steak or a burger, dude,
a
I
steak would probably
would be
fuck you up.
so
Because it takes
sick.
How long does it take to change your biome? Your
Probably a
gut biome?
while.
Probably
It's been years for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's so bad with antibiotics. Is it
Takes forever. It takes 12 months to build that back up.
after you?
Just to get it back to base,
Yeah,
you know?
back to base.
What the hell are we even talking about?
Clintons.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. No, I can talk about them all the time. They're great. We're on chapter 6. How do they communicate with us from outer space? So this is a question.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about communication from higher evolved beings.
This is the book I'm reading, not our interpretation. So from White Sands Incident, Dr. Daniel
W. Fry, 1954, about there.
He says the word telepathy is defined in Webster's dictionary as communication between mind by a means other than ordinary and normal.
Yes.
That's a pretty vague definition.
Yeah, well, other than ordinary or normal means I'm going to talk to you.
But to them, it's ordinary and normal.
Yeah.
To the way we talk is rudimentary.
Yeah. So, telepathy is every thought. Okay, so your skull, this is a nice scientific fact, is a parabolic reflector. That means the shape of your skull is good for emitting radio signals. So that's why if you ever try to think like you're trying to unlock your car from a distance, it works better if you put the keys underneath your chin and then do it. Your brain, not the brain matter, but the skull itself actually helps with the amplification of that projected signal. So your brain, like when you're having conscious thoughts, are releasing electrical impulses that match those thoughts. All right? Which are then amplified out of your head and then are sent out very quickly. So if you're going to do telepathic communication, rather than just saying words, why don't I just send these fine electrical impulses out, and then have them received by another receiving individual? So I want to direct my radio signal, which you can do, depending on your antenna, you can actually put it in a vector. I'm going to do that. And then on top of it, that other person is going to be willing to receive it. That would be your telepathic thought.
Well, I mean, look this up. What animals do telepathy? We already have it. I mean, it's scientifically proven.
Yeah, no, we're just bad at using it.
We just don't know how, or it's not.
Animal telepathy.
Because there's
Remember Dr. Sheldrake, British guy?
Yeah.
He had done an early study. I think we talked about this before with this telepathic insight that animals have. The study was in England. There was a dog in the house that set a camera up. There was a timestamp. Now, they would have the owner leave, and they chose owners that were always on a regular pattern for coming home. So they're like, okay, the dog, they thought in their mind, could anticipate that time of day and then go wait for them at the door because they're done with their workday. They know that there's an obvious schedule. They thought dogs are very pattern-driven. So they wanted to change that. That was sort of your base case. And then you'd have other ones where they would put the owner in the car, and then they would call them, the owner, and say, turn around and go back home. So that way, the owner wasn't actually thinking about going back home at that time. They were actually on the plan to go to work. They never knew if they would be called to go back. They just know they would go about their day. But the experimenters would be like, go back home. The moment on the timestamp when the camera in the car captures the individual receiving the thought pattern and then changing their habits to actually drive back home, the exact timestamp for the dog in the house immediately got up every time and went and sat at the door or the window waiting for the owner. So Sheldrake was like, something has to be going on here between a communication of the mind telepathically with the animal and the human being.
Well, I mean, isn't there animals that communicate that way now? Like, I think elephants do it,
Bees
whales
do
it, yeah,
ants
bees
do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of insects that do it, but
yeah. But
no, I think they've scientifically proven that there are animals that.
Well, and they've even shown telepathy's real with the Stanford Research Institute in the 1970s.
But we always call it metaphysics, like because we don't. It's just because we don't understand.
We don't understand
it, and we don't understand 99.9%. We've only have 0.1% of the universe.
Yeah, we don't even know our oceans.
So that's why I get so aggravated with some of these, people that have this view of like they know it all.
Yep,
it's like you don't know shit.
You don't know anything.
The most brilliant mind on Earth right now knows 0.1 of really what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And if they have wisdom, they would say that.
Right. We talked to Weinberger.
Yeah.
He said all of our knowledge will come from AI. Well, AI can only analyze what it can see.
So it may get us.
It can only analyze what a human puts
so
into it.
So it'll
for
get us
input.
to 99%. It can figure out the 0.9.
No,
but there'll be 99% we don't know.
That's exactly my point. We can only give it the inputs of what we can see, but what about everything else it can't see?
Figure out dark matter and then come talk to me.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't figure it out. That's right. Fantastic.
Figure out what's the most simplest. This is the fun one. And people need to understand this. The where the cell and then it starts
mitosis.
Where it starts and then it grows.
Mm-hmm.
It's a single cell and then it grows. And they cannot figure out the pattern of how it grows.
Pretty sure it's called mitosis, bro.
Yeah,
cellular replication, mitosis of the chromosomes.
Yeah, they have tried. Scientists, this is so simple. They can watch it over and observe it and observe it and observe it, but they cannot come to they do not know how it can multiply like it does.
No.
And then the pattern of multiplication on it, because you can take one away and then two will come to the side and then, so it's like, it's so aggravating because it aggravates scientists because they're like, because it's a single cell amobia, right?
Amoeba?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the mitosis, it's the process where the single cell divides into two identical daughter cells, which is the cellular division process. So that when you have cellular die-off, it can come in, replace the old one, and give a new one at the same time. Think about the efficiency of that system.
Well, that just shows reincarnation.
Yeah, you're precisely correct.
Yeah, once again.
Yeah, thank you.
But this telepathy, when we get back to that, it's so easy because just as like you just said with the radio frequencies, if you have a radio tower and you have your car back, remember the AM radio stations? My dad loved listening to AM radio. I
silver knobs, and it would move the needle left or right.
I mean, I grew up. When Rush Limbaugh first came out, I think it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
And my dad was, staunch Christian conservative, so he loved listening to Rush Limbaugh in the 80s.
Interesting.
And he listened to talk radio all day long. And at nighttime, he had an AM radio next to his bed. And then he got one of those. My mom hated it, so he got one of those little circle pillows speakers. It was like a mono speaker, and you could plug it in.
And you can literally rest your head on it and just hear it.
Yeah, and just hear it. So
Actually,
he would do that. Yeah, he would do that. And then his favorite place to go, which I always like going with him, was Radio Shack.
Oh, Radio Shack was the best.
I always went to Radio Shack and got shit.
You can nerd out there.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, we got a Tandy computer, the first one.
Oh, it's so sweet.
So awesome. Yeah, I mean, my parents didn't have a lot of money, but my dad loved electronics. But yeah, he would listen to this AM radio, and AM would do this weird thing, especially at nighttime. All of a sudden, you could pick up an AM station that would be so fucking far away because it would skip.
Okay, this is what you just said. This is my father's favorite thing. He's like, you got to catch this skip.
Yeah.
So you can do it with the AM and you can do it with the CB.
Yes,
you can actually ride the electromagnetic waves from the sun in the ionosphere with the AM wavelength. And you can get a radio station on the other side of the world.
My dad would come into my room and say, "Son, I just got this radio. I just got this station from North Carolina.
Yeah,
an AM station from North Carolina." And he would listen to, because at nighttime they always had. He'd fall asleep just listening to talk radio.
Yeah,
which I listen to podcasts all day long, and then. Listen,
funny?
at nighttime, I fall asleep with podcasts, so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Podcast is just AM radio.
I used to have a super high-powered CB radio, Citizens Band radio, and this thing was maxed out, and I had it on like a very high...
Single sideband CBs did the same thing, right?
Dude, I cranked the wattage in this thing, right? So I remember one
day... You
made
it illegal?
Yeah. Oh, you have to. The thing, what we call it running hot.
Yeah.
Where when you key in, it like pegs everybody else's stuff because the signal comes in so strong. I remember I caught a skip one day, and it may have been a satellite communication. You know, you go, and they're like talking, and then you get the, and it always does it like electronic, like triple beep after.
Right.
It was every single time. And I don't know what they were talking about with like atmospheric data or something like that, but I think I got some sort of skip like across like a K band or like a G band from a satellite.
Right.
That was kind of keying into what I was receiving.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's this ability to be able to be on that same frequency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Raw's teaching talks about that, you know, where they had to be real specific with her,
narrow
you know,
band.
with her on.
Yeah.
So I would see if it seems it would be so simple to just get on the same frequency as you, and then we'd be able to communicate.
But that will require you and I being very sensitive of one another.
And also be super present.
Present and not forcing a thought upon you, but you actually listening and perceiving everything openly.
Yeah, exactly.
Not having thoughts that would block what would come in.
Because and he even mentions this, and this is Dr. Fry saying this. One of the best books I've read on the subject is ESP and Your Superconscious by Dr. Gilbert N. Holloway. He tells us it's a great book. He said this fascinating book explains telepathy in an unusually clear manner. It also explains the subject of extrasensory perception and how it is accomplished. And then he goes into that how ESP can be used to contact our own astronauts in outer space. Then he explains how and why the men in the flying saucers have developed ESP to a high degree.
So that what you're talking about, that study of ESP was actually used by NASA.
Mm-hmm.
So they were having trouble. When you are going around the backside of the moon, the direct radio communication channel doesn't work. It's blocked. The actual planetary body is blocking the signal. So they're like, well, how do we fix this? Well, they looked to the studies and research that was done by Stanford Research Institute later after that fact to say that, can we do what you guys are doing with remote viewing and apply that training for our astronauts so we can do communication when they go into areas where our radio signals don't reach? Sure, of course you can. And they actually did studies, ESP studies, by, what are those deck of cards they do have like a symbol on it? It's like circle, triangle, star, square, whatever it was. Very simple like ESP deck. They actually sent one of those up to the International Space Station in Houston. NASA did the study to say, okay, are you they would like flip a card and they're like, tell us exactly which specific one we're looking at. And they would run through this study all day long to see if that form of communication would work in areas where it typically wouldn't happen. But what they found is that the transmission of information was near instantaneous. But when you use the radio signal, you have a great delay before that radio wave is actually picked up past the disturbance of the atmosphere.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So they're like, what is actually going on with telepathy? It couldn't possibly sit in the material form with the fact of how quickly it's really moving. So do these messages sit outside of this dimension of space-time and actually move through time-space? And this is what Stanford Research Institute looked at with Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, was the fact that why is it that we're picking up information about a specific area, but we're seeing it in the 1930s, 1970s, the 2050s? That's because the consciousness, which they were trying to figure out, has the ability to be in that area, but shift sideways across time. So yes, I'm in the right area, but I'm seeing it 20 years ahead or 40 years behind. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I mean that the Goats movie, you know, with George Clooney.
Men Who Stare at Goats was actually taken from the research done by Stanford Research Institute.
But what was so funny, because they're so siloed, a lot of the CIA, the Army, you know, the Air Force, a lot of them were doing separate ESP projects.
Right.
There was actually a lot going on in the 60s and 70s.
Correct.
People don't write, and they're using LSD with it to see.
You can enhance it, and then you get this. What's that show, Stranger Things?
Yes.
The whole point of Stranger Things came out because of this research that was actually going on during this time.
Yeah, and he says this, it is presently known that all of the motor and sensory functions of the body are electrical in nature.
Didn't I just say these fine electrical impulses that are leaving your mind?
The entire nervous system of the body is, in fact, a mass of exceedingly complex electrical circuitry.
So cool.
Yeah, so I mean,
cool.
Well, we talked about fast food. So let's say you're starving, and you have a cheeseburger in front of you, and you need to eat.
Yeah.
Because it's energy.
Okay.
It's bad. I mean, it's not good for you, but if you're starving, it'd just go right through you.
Mm-hmm.
But that one cheeseburger would last you how long, you think, energy-wise? A human body, a day, 2 days?
maybe.
where you could
Or
function
if
a day, probably.
It depends on its nutrient level.
Yeah.
So calorie and nutrient level, it may last you a day.
So let's say worst case scenario, a half a day.
Yeah.
So they said the human brain is faster and can do more, neurosynapses and all that stuff, can do more, like 1 million times more than the fastest computer that we have out there.
Not what David Feinberger would say.
So, and I'm just talking purely, we don't want to get into subconscious and conscious and those simultaneously
just
working.
In a complete material sense.
Yeah, just in a complete material sense. It's 1 million times faster than the fastest computer. And the energy that is required is a cheeseburger for half a day.
That's nuts.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Compared to what is the largest quantum computer we have, and what does the room look like? That is
huge. You got to super cool it.
Yes.
It takes a ton of energy.
Why don't we have to be super cooled?
Yeah, what's with that? That means we have.
In fact, around our brain, there's no cooling mechanism around our brain.
We have a water barrier.
Yeah.
But is it really cooling it that much?
Does the brain really getting that hot whenever it's under overload?
When it's thinking,
you can see the red, the green, the blue, and all that.
There's an increase in electrical activity.
Yeah.
Is it getting hot?
Yeah.
You got a hot brain. I don't know. Does the brain get hotter when thinking? So about 30% of your daily caloric intake goes towards thinking, the process of actually using the brain.
So that cheeseburger, only 30% of it is going to, for half that day, 30% of it is going to the brain.
30% of it,
this supercomputer,
goes to the brain. Actually, yeah, it actually does get warmer.
So not only are we thinking hundreds of millions of times, we're also perceiving things in 3D.
Oh, bro.
You know how hard it is for a computer to take 3D images and processes them as quickly as our brain can?
Yeah, we can process shadows like nothing else.
Yeah.
And this makes sense. So the harder you're thinking, using more calorie for concentration,
right?
The heat is dissipated through the brain-blood barrier, your ears, your scalp, and the blood that actually circulates through the head and carries it back through the body. So it is that calorie is actually getting used there, and then the dissipation comes off. Like when your ears are getting red,
Right.
or you're like so upset and you're thinking really fast.
Yeah.
All of those things are actually occurring. So yes, like a CPU, the bulk of its effort, it heats up and it has abundant cooling mechanisms, the whole head, your skin, everything, to actually dissipate that energy.
So we have 7.5 billion of these little supercomputers running around all over the world. I mean, faster than any.
But our cooling mechanism rarely ever heats up beyond half a degree, because anything beyond that be painful for us. Think about how efficient our cooling is.
Oh, yeah.
Why can't we put that in our studio gaming computer?
Think about it. I mean, this is crazy. But I get what he's saying, and we'll close on this because we'll continue on this. We'll do a part 2. But a massive, exceedingly complex electrical circuitry.
Yeah.
I mean, when they outlie your nerves, how long is it?
Oh my God. Was it map around the earth or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. If they take all your nerve.
And you string them all together independently. Yeah, it's ridiculous length. All right, we'll close on this. So total length of human nerves. Let's see. 40. Okay. So not the doesn't go around the earth.
40 miles?
Yeah. You have 43.
I just heard you say 40, so I just guessed.
45 miles of nerves going through your body.
That's still a long way.
No. Yeah, I was right. The total length of the circulatory system is 60,000 miles. Nerves is 40 something. Yeah, 45 miles of nerves, 60,000 miles of circulatory system.
So even just the nervous system. I mean, from here to Santa Fe.
Yeah. You could just pull it out of your
body.
It
takes forever to drive. I mean, you're like, it's one minute. I mean, that's
but
how
the
many
brain
feet per
can
mile?
Fire signals almost instantly to other parts of the body. You feel pain, anything.
Oh, I can go stub my toe right now, which is the farthest from my brain. I will feel it.
20 minutes later.
No, I will feel it in a couple seconds.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. I smashed my knee the other day and I felt that.
I hate that shit.
Listen.
I hate doing anything when you're clumsy.
Well, we're
Pisses me off.
gonna come back just as fast as our nerves are gonna flare up.